Hi, everybody. When I first heard of International Watercolour Masters, I didn't tell anybody that I was entering because I thought that, I didn't really stand a hope. So I was absolutely amazed and honoured that I was chosen as one of the 6 winners. And to be here today, and a huge thanks to David Poxon for all the work that he does with International Watercolour Masters. And as you can all see, and you're here, and you know what a fantastic exhibition it is. My paintings, as you will have seen, the one just on around the corner there, it's quite small. And even though it's small, it does take me a long time to produce these paintings. I work from my own reference. I go down to the beach in a howling gale, and I have a tide times clock in my hallway, and so I can see when it's high tide, and that is the best time to be down on the beach in a gale, just at the point the tide's turning. And my local beach is only 15 minutes away, so it doesn't take me long to get down there. And the best thing is if I have a southwesterly, because it whips it across the beach and up against the harbour wall, and the waves bounce back, and that gets the best effects. And then from my photographs, I take them home, and I usually will probably work from a series of 4, and I play around probably for a few days in Photoshop, working out how I'm going to do the painting, and then I print something out, and I work from there. Today, I'm going to do just a wave splashing up. I've got a painting that I did towards the end of last year, and I'm really going to do a detail of that. And at the minute, I have now got my board upside down because I don't want the darkest of the blues to go downwards. I want them at the top. And another thing you need to know that when you're painting is where your light source is coming from. And my light source is coming from the right, slightly from behind. And so whatever you're doing, landscapes or whatever, you've always got to know where your light source is, so therefore where your shadows are going to be. Right, so I'll get going, put my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to wet the paper with a brush. It tends to be how I work. Make sure it's wet. Well, wet where I want it to be wet, but obviously not wet. Actually, it might help me if I turn my reference photo upside down for a minute, and I know where I am too. I'll probably tip it a bit too so it moves around. And this is actually a mixture of cobalt blue and ultramarine with a tiny little bit of a Daniel Smith grey. I think it was a neutral tint in, just to knock back the brightness of the colour. Now, what I'm going to do is to make this slightly lighter on this side. And get a bit more colour here on the right. Now I'm going to soften these edges just with some Kleenex. So that I get a nice soft edge to my wave that is splashing up. I have actually put some masking fluid on here already. Blue Peter style, being prepared. Turn it around and see how it looks. It was quite a nice sunny day, even though it was stormy. So now you can probably see better. I might just move some of this paint around a bit. It's still pretty wet. All right, and now we're going to start working into the actual colours of the wave. And I think probably what I'll do first is, you can probably see that there's some little yellow highlights in there. It's where the sun is shining through. It's caught the sunlight in the back of the wave as it's splashing up. So I'm going to do the yellows now. Wet some more. Now the yellows are sort of going round in an arc. I tend to work by building up lots of layers of colour. So some of it's wet in wet, and then some of it will be wet into dry, or I'll dry it, and then I'll wet it again. All these things are, you need to practice, and you will find what works for you, and we're all different. I'm using Fabriano Artistico, not meaning not hot pressed. So it's not smooth, but it's not rough. It's got a slight texture. A 140 pounds, 300 grams. Right, start adding a bit more sort of orangey colours in. That went a bit dark, didn't it? Move that around. And I always stretch my paper, and using brown paper tape. And I have a method of doing that, which I'll tell you about later, when I need to concentrate a bit less. Now I'm adding a little bit of Potter's Pink, which is something I discovered which I really rather like. Get rid of that, not a bit too much. the nice thing about waves is that they're quite random, obviously, and you can have, there's so much colour going on if you really look at a wave. So it's just fun to splash all the colour in. I don't normally produce anything in an hour unless it's a small sketch. So this is a first for me. So keep your fingers crossed that it doesn't go wrong. I'm sure it'll be fine. It's actually really rather nice for me to have a go at doing this, bigger and looser than I normally do. Wet the paper a bit more down here. While it's wet, you can move the paint around quite a bit. Up there. I think I'll have a bit of that in my hand. Right, now start putting some slightly darker colours in. It's going much more purple over this side. It's almost rainbow colours there in the middle. I have some darker red. I use mostly Winsor & Newton paints. But I've also been using the Daniel Smith Greys, a series that Alvaro was talking about yesterday. And they're wonderful for mixing in. And you can't get them in small tubes, but it's worth the money. That's there. I think I'm just going to, it's still wet up there, I'm just going to slightly take some of that blue out to make some clouds in that corner. I didn't want them to be too obvious, just enough. All these colours are just blending nicely into each other. And then later I will go back in with some more shapes. A bit more orange over in that corner. Miss that bit out, so I'll add a bit more there. Soften that up. do ask any other questions if you can think of any.
What made you choose waves as a subject?
I was doing landscapes and for doing them for about 20 years, and I moved nearer the coast, and I went down to the beach one day, and I just suddenly thought, oh, why not have a go at seascapes? That would make a change. So I did. And then I discovered actually zooming in on the waves was actually the most fun. And it was learning about how the waves worked, and then being brave enough to actually go down there and stand very close to the sea. Usually wrapped up so that nobody can actually see it's me. My other half always sort of says, make sure you're careful. I want you back.
Have you used wax at all, or masking fluid?
I've got masking fluid on here that I put on for. Can you see that you're beginning to see some little white patches that are coming up? So that's, I masked off before I came here. I did it over the weekend.
What do you actually use to mask it off?
I think it was a schminky one, which I prefer. A lot of people use the one that's sort of blue, don't they? But this one, I use a ruling pen, which puts in the sort of finer marks, really. Let's have a bigger brush down here. Might be quicker. Put some right down to the bottom. Used up all my blue. Not used to this. All right, I think over this side it's going to be a bit more blues and purples.
Is this the usual size that you paint at, or have you gone a lot bigger and a lot smaller?
I've gone a lot bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually really rather enjoying it, I have to say. So hopefully this experience will have started something new for me. Watercolour's a wonderful medium because it will often do things for you, as you probably all know. Happy accidents, which when painting this type of thing is certainly helps. There's a lot of sort of mauvey reds in the bottom half here too. It's amazing how you can just keep on dropping colour in and seeing what's going to happen. And that's the beauty of having the paper stretched. You know, that once this all dries, it will be absolutely flat. I'm now just sort of putting a bit of some quite much drier paint on here, just to mark out some shapes here. There's not very much on my brush. To let some of this dry a bit over here. I mean, it doesn't actually matter if this doesn't turn out to look anything like the painting at all, because a wave will change in seconds, but it's just a guide. Just softening off some of these edges, which I did want to be a little bit softer. Some new Kleenex. Right, I think we're going with some more blues over on this side, so that we're getting more of the shadows. Soften that bit. Time is flying, isn't it?
Yeah, you're nearly halfway through.
Okey-doke.
Do you think you're nearly halfway through your paint?
Oh, I've no idea. It will be what it will be, I think.
You said your piece you've got in the exhibition took you about a week?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
is that a week of 8-hour days, a week of 12-hour days, or do you sort of walk away from
I walk away. I do a bit of, actually do a little bit dancing around to sort of relieve my back a bit. Bit of Pilates, and then go back to it. So yes, I don't tend to work more than sort of an hour solidly. I'll get up and move around.
Do you only have one painting on the go at a time?
Yes. Yeah. Going with some browns. What's that one? Try that one. Don't think the top wants to come off that one. Yes, it does. Too red. It's good, isn't it? I get a lot of my materials from Jackson's online. I also rather like going to their shop in London. It's like going into a sweetie shop. I'm sure all of you who paint find that. You go in and you think, oh, that looks nice. I'll have a go with that, which is good, you know. I think, you know, we all need to experiment and then find out what, you know, what works best for you. Some more yellows.
So you're now working dry on wet or dry on dry?
Sort of not as wet paint, but it's on paper that is still damp, but not sopping wet. Purple there. Right. I think we probably need something in this bit here that's... It's nice to have something that's white, but not too much. Right. Bits of Kleenex everywhere. Right. Need a bit more dark down the bottom. I can't say that this is exactly turning out quite how I thought it would, but I'm having fun anyway. That's dark. When I stretch the paper, after I've wetted it in a tray, I lay it on a towel just to get some of the dampness out of it. And then I tape it to the board, and with the tape, I wet the tape and I run it through my fingers so that it's not too wet. And then I put a clean towel on top, the whole thing, another board on top, and some books, and I leave it overnight. And Fabriano, this paper that I use, is not that easy to stretch. And when I first started painting, I was getting it. It was just I'd put the board aside with the paper on it, and come back, and think, oh no, it's buckled. But this method, with putting a towel on the top and some weight, it just seemed to work. Well, it works for me. And since I started doing that, I have had no problems at all. So if you're struggling, give it a go. Right, in a minute, I'm going to dry this with a hairdryer. What have I got left?
25 minutes.
Okay. Well, that's nice and colourful, isn't it? Looks more colourful here than it does up there, I can tell you. I'm going to Now you can see how much paler that's gone. It's always frustrating. It never is dark. So I'm actually going to just to show you. This could all go completely wrong, but we'll give it a go. Right, not too wet. So I think we will go here. I've wet it again. I could have done it with the spray, but I just thought it'd be interesting to see what happened if I do it with a brush. I'm going to go in with some more paint down here. And bingo, it's working. That's good. Just have to make sure that you're not getting any edges. I can probably go and soften those up with a bit of Kleenex. Let's drop some more orange in. Orangey browns. That's made it quite interesting. I hope this doesn't go everywhere. I didn't tell David I was going to do this. Splattering paint. I'll get a sponge. That's another way of sort of softening the edges off. That's brought back some depth to it, hasn't it? Let's rinse that out. Right, I'm going to come up here and just put some gentle bits of so this is natural sponge. I don't know if any of you have had to go with using these. They do make nice random marks. As long as you keep turning it around, otherwise you get the same mark. I think we'll come in here with a bit of colour around here. Now, as this is drying, it's getting an edge here as well, which is, we'll go in with some more colour. It's just interesting to see what's going to happen here. Quite like that. Right. I think I've probably put enough colour on there now. Okay, I better dry it off, and then I can take some of that masking fluid off. Sorry, this is a bit boring for you. I'm doing the old hairdryer bit. Oops. Right, let's get some of that masking fluid off. I hope somebody's got a hoover here. And in a minute I'm going to go back in with a few more bits of colour here and there, and then I'm going to start adding a bit of white. I better not do too much spattering. Normally I would be sort of flicking paint all over the place, but I think I better tone it down a bit here, because this carpet looks quite nice. Right. My sponges have disappeared off. Thanks very much. Oops. Thank you. That one was a nice one. Just going to go in again a little bit with a few more darks, just to make some random marks as well. I think it needs more over there. And around here. Right. Right, where to put these? I think, come down here a bit. This is just sort of hopefully breaking up some of the edges and making them a bit softer. What I would really be doing in this bottom corner here is standing here with a paintbrush and toothbrush and flicking white into this corner, but better not, had I? I might do some gentle flicking, but not too much. I either use titanium white watercolour, or this is actually Dr. P.H. Martin's bleed-proof white, which actually mixes quite well with colours as well. But I found it works for me and for what I want to do. I mean, it's still water-based. Getting close, aren't I, time-wise? Fairly close. Right, a small brush. Small that. That's not wet enough. That's too wet. With all these things, you have to get them just right. It's going up my arms. I don't think the sponge actually made that bit down the bottom there look random enough. But it was interesting, it was worth a try. I think that actually went on my face just then. Yeah, sorry, all up my front. Better stop doing that then. Well, you get the idea. I'm just going to stand back and look at that. I think probably if I do too much more, it's the old case of knowing when to stop, isn't it? A bit more here. Well, that bit there didn't come out as I wanted it to, but never mind. We had a little experiment. I think probably I'm going to stop at that actually, because I might start messing it up. And if anybody wants to ask any questions, please do. You didn't catch it, perhaps you didn't hear, I did say. So I wet it in a tray of water, and I leave it in there for at least a minute, and then turn it over another minute. And then I put it on a towel, and then I dab it so it's not sopping wet, put it on the board, and then I put the tape around. And then again, I probably dab the tape a bit to make sure that's not soaking wet. Put a clean towel over the whole thing, a board on top, and some books. And bingo, it's completely flat. Okay, I've actually written it down on a piece of paper, so if you want to photograph what I've written, that will help.
Felicity,
Yeah.
you've got your printout of the finished one of this with the birds on it and everything.
Can you zoom in on this one's probably the better version of it?
Yeah, if you put it in there, yeah.
Yeah. Is that you or me?
That might be you.
Oh. So that was I've just sort of really done that little bit there. So those birds weren't actually there in the original when the photograph, but they were right up in the sky, and they were all in the wrong place anyway. So yes, you can have a look at this, because that's come up a bit pale there. So if you want to come up afterwards, you can come and have a look at that. It's just a small print out of it, but it is very accurate to the colour of the original. Anything else I wanted to say? Anything else that anybody wanted to ask? You're all good? You're all right with that, are you?
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
That's all right. Thank you.